My Discord icon, a meme of a cat blissfully asleep on a keyboard, was flashing like a fire alarm. I clicked on it. Vicky the Reaper. You there? Vicky the Reaper. You dead? Vicky the Reaper. If you don't post a chapter today, I will crawl through the internet and personally staple you to your monitor. Vicky the Reaper. I'm not kidding, Silent Fall. Don't test me. I silently switched my status from online to invisible. Then, with the practiced ease of a veteran, I unplugged my Ethernet cable. The world went quiet. My beautiful, terrifying editor, Victoria Blackwood, reliably demonic as always. My name is Ethan Vance. By day, I'm a copywriter at a small marketing firm. By night, I'm a web novelist. Pen name, Silent Fall. In the web fiction world, I'm what you might call a big shot. Of course, that's what other people think. The way I see it, I'm just a guy who likes to write, and a terminal procrastinator. My motto is, if I procrastinate long enough, my editor can't catch me. My editor, Victoria Blackwood, known in the community as Vicky the Reaper, has a different opinion. Her motto is, if I hound them hard enough, there's no manuscript I can't collect. As a result, our chat history reads like a high-stakes spy thriller. I disguise myself. I go dark. I play dead. She pursues. She interrogates. She mentally flays me with nothing but text. Ding dong. The doorbell. I jumped, my heart hammering against my ribs. For a second, I thought she'd actually done it, crawled through the internet to get me. My hands were still trembling as I crept to the peephole and looked out. It was my mom. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding and opened the door. Ethan, you forgot what day it is again, didn't you? My mom stood there, grocery bags in hand, her voice booming with enough force to shake the doorframe. My stomach dropped. Crap, I forgot. Mom, is it win a lottery day? Win my foot. She gave me a loving smack on the back of the head. You have a blind date. 3 o'clock this afternoon, Southside Grind Cafe. The woman's name is Victoria. The matchmaker said she's a star editor at Mythic Reads, 3 years older than you. I sent you a picture. A star editor at Mythic Reads? Something in my DNA stirred. It couldn't be. The coincidence was too insane. With shaking hands, I opened my text messages. It was a professional headshot. The woman in the photo. Cool, intelligent eyes, a high-bridged nose, and perfectly defined lips that held a natural, chilly red tint without any lipstick. The black blazer she wore only amplified her aloof, untouchable aura. Oh man, I was speechless. This was her. This was the woman from our author servers, hailed as the Ice Queen of web fiction, the one true god of chapter chasing. The star editor, Victoria Blackwood. And I, Silent Fall, was the author she called the single most difficult writer on her roster. No competition. I felt my entire worldview shatter, reassemble itself, and then shatter all over again. To go, or not to go. If I go, and she figures me out, my future writing career will be spent under her. Personal supervision. If I don't go, my mom will hunt me from one end of the city to the other and string me up by my toes. The lesser of two evils. I decided to go. It's just a blind date. As long as I keep my online alias under wraps, nobody can blow my cover. I changed into what I considered my most respectable outfit. White button-down, casual slacks, and a pair of gold-rimmed glasses. The man in the mirror looked harmless, scholarly. A wolf in sheep's clothing. No, wait, a refined gentleman. Right? Today I was the honest and dependable Ethan Vance. Definitely not the keyboard-avoiding, excuse-making, ghosting his editor-author known as Silent Fall. At 3 o'clock sharp, I arrived at the Southside Grind Cafe. Victoria was already there. She sat at a table by the window, her slender figure accentuated by a beige trench coat. She was even more stunning in person. She wasn't looking at her phone or out the window. She was just sitting there quietly, nursing a steaming latte. She looked like a painting, serene and beautiful. I took a deep breath and walked over. Hi, are you Victoria? She looked up at the sound of my voice, her eyes landing on me. A flicker of appraisal crossed her cool gaze. I am. You must be Ethan. Her voice was lovely, crisp, with a hint of coolness. That's me. I pulled out a chair and sat down, trying to make my smile look genuine. Sorry to keep you waiting. Don't worry, I just got here myself. She gave a slight nod. The atmosphere froze over. So this was the legendary Ice Queen. Her presence was intense. I felt less like I was on a blind date and more like I was in a job interview. So what do you do, Ethan? Victoria broke the silence. Here it comes. The million-dollar question. I had my answer ready. I'm a copywriter at a small marketing firm. I write things here and there to make ends meet. It wasn't a lie. My web novel was just a side hustle. She nodded. Do you like to read? She asked, her gaze falling on the copy of 100 Years of Solitude I'd brought with me. Yeah, I'm a big fan of literary fiction. Marquez is my idol, I said, my face a mask of pure admiration. Is that so? A faint smile touched the corner of her lips. Then what are your thoughts on the character Aureliano Buendia? Lady, we're on a blind date, not at a literary symposium. But I didn't panic. As a top author who lived by the written word, I had this in the bag. I launched into my analysis of the character, speaking eloquently about his solitude, his cyclical fate, and the destiny of the town of Macondo. I talked until my throat was dry. She just listened quietly, the frost in her eyes seeming to melt, just a little. Well said, she commented. It seems you've actually read it closely. I smiled humbly. Just some random thoughts, nothing special. Inside, I was screaming. Did you see that? Vicky the Reaper. This is my real power. Bowed down before my literary genius. And for the love of God, don't ask me for a chapter today. Just then, an unwelcome voice cut in. Victoria? Fancy seeing you here. I turned to see a guy in a loud floral shirt, his hair slicked back with an obscene amount of gel, heading our way. I recognized him. Chad Peterson, an editor from some second-rate publisher who was always bragging about the big-shot authors he managed, when in reality none of them could write their way out of paperback. And, if I remember correctly, the guy was desperately trying to date Victoria. Chad strode up to our table and looked me up and down with an air of superiority. And who is this? My friend, Ethan, Victoria said, her tone instantly turning cold again. Friend, Chad smirked. Come on, Vicky, don't tell me he's her blind date. Victoria's brow furrowed. Chad, this is none of your business. How is it not my business? Chad pulled up a chair and sat down without being invited. Our families go way back. If you're out on a blind date, I have to make sure the guy's not a total loser, right? His eyes landed back on me. So, Ethan, what do you work? I smiled politely. Just a small company. Pays the bills. Oh, a small company? Chad drew out the words. You know, in this day and age, it's not easy to make a life in River City without a good job. He tapped the gaudy gold watch on his wrist, his face oozing smugness. I may just be a senior editor, but I manage a few big-shot authors. I do all right for myself. Give me a break, I thought. The royalties of all your big shots combined probably don't even add up to my pocket money for a month. But on the outside, I maintain my friendly smile. Mr. Peterson, you're clearly a man of talent. I'm very impressed. Well, you know, Chad said, clearly lapping it up. Look, Ethan, I don't mean to be rude, but Vicky is a goddess in our circle. She has high standards. A copywriter from a small firm like you is probably... He didn't finish, but his meaning was clear. Victoria's expression darkened completely. Chad, that's enough. Just as she spoke, her phone buzzed. Victoria glanced at the screen, and her entire aura shifted from an Arctic glacier to an active volcano. Her eyes became lethally sharp. Her fingers flew across the screen, typing furiously. My phone, in my pocket, started buzzing nonstop with Discord notifications. I shrank in my seat, pretending to sip my coffee, not daring to look at her. I hadn't posted a chapter yesterday. I could even guess what she was typing at that very moment. Something along the lines of, Silent Fall, you useless piece of trash, you missed your deadline again. Chad, completely oblivious, was still running his mouth. See, Vicky, I told you. You need to date someone in our industry, someone who gets it. Look at me. Shut up. Victoria snapped, her head shooting up. Chad froze, looking like a duck with its neck caught in a vice. The entire cafe went silent. Victoria took a deep breath, visibly trying to wrestle her rage back into its cage. She put down her phone and turned to me, managing to squeeze out a small, apologetic smile. I'm so sorry, Ethan. A little trouble at work. You must think I'm crazy. I quickly waved my hands. No, not at all. Work is important. She sighed and took a sip of her coffee. I have this author I manage. His name is Silent Fall. My heart seized. Here we go. It's happening. He's brilliant, but he's incredibly lazy. A terminal procrastinator. I can never get a hold of him. Getting him to post a chapter is like pulling teeth. Every single time, I have to resort to threats, bribes, and emotional blackmail just to squeeze 4 or 5,000 words out of him. Tell me, she said, looking me dead in the eye, what kind of person does that? What could I do? With my heart bleeding internally, I had to agree with her, my voice filled with righteous indignation. That's awful. An author like that is a cancer on the industry. He has zero sense of responsibility. Right. She'd found a kindred spirit, and her eyes lit up. You think so too? Absolutely. I thumped my chest, my expression pained. Victoria, you have it so tough. If I had to deal with an author like that, I would have lost my mind by now. Tell me about it. She sighed again, and the tension in her brow seemed to ease. But, she said, her tone shifting, even though he's a total pain, his books, they're really, really good. Every time I see the readers begging for a new chapter in the comments, I just think I can put up with it a little longer. I looked at her, and a strange feeling washed over me. So, she didn't actually want to murder me and hide the body. Across the table, Chad looked from me to Victoria, his face shifting from green to white. He probably couldn't understand why Victoria would be complaining about her work to a lowly copywriter. And from the looks of it, we were getting along great. He couldn't take it anymore. Vicky, it's getting late. Why don't I give you a ride home? Victoria didn't even glance at him. She looked at me. Ethan, I'm sorry you had to see all that. Maybe another day, I can take you to dinner, just the two of us, to make up for it. My heart soared. Dinner, just the two of us. That had to be a good sign, right? I'd love that. I agreed instantly. Chad was completely dumbfounded. He stood up, staring at me, then at Victoria, speechless. Finally, he scurried away, shooting me a venomous glare as he left. I returned it with a gentle, placid smile. What are you looking at, bro? After that blind date, my relationship with Victoria entered a very strange new phase. Online, she was my own personal hell. On Discord, Vicky the Reaper. Silent Fall. Did your family cut your internet cord? Vicky the Reaper. Don't test me. If I don't hear from you, I'm pulling all your front page features. Vicky the Reaper 1. Vicky the Reaper 2. Silen Fal. Mong. I'm sorry. I'm writing. Almost done. Vicky the Reaper. Slightly smiling face. Every time I saw that passive-aggressive smile emoji, a chill went down my spine. It was more terrifying than any threat. I'd have no choice but to meekly open a document and begin the painful process of churning out words. I even learned a new skill, pretending to be a newbie. Silent Fall. Hey Vicky, what do you think of this opening? Is it grabbing enough? Attaches 2,000 words. Vicky the Reaper. It's okay. Not enough. Keep going. Silent Fall. Vicky, I have writer's block. What do I do? Help me. Vicky the Reaper. Story _ structure _ analysis. Doc. Character _ profile _ template. XLS. Golden _rules _ first _ chapters. PDF. Vicky the Reaper. Read these. When you're done, I want a 10,000 word report. Silent Fall. Me, a top-tier author, being coached like a total rookie. If word of this got out, my reputation would be ruined. But what could I do? I was the one in the wrong, and I was terrified of her, but also kind of in love with her. Offline, however, she was my heaven. On text, Victoria, beautiful day today. Wanna go for a walk? Ethan, absolutely. Where are you? I'll come pick you up. Victoria, location pin. Victoria, drive safe. We went to art galleries together. She would tell me the stories behind each painting. We went to concerts together. Classical pop. In the midst of a beautiful melody, I would sneak glances at her profile. We went to dive bars for wings and beer. She would take off her Ice Queen mask and laugh like a kid, getting sauce on the corner of her mouth and letting me wipe it away for her. Every single time I was with her, I felt like the world was a beautiful place. Of course, that beauty was always teetering on the edge of a cliff. One night, we were having dinner at a classy Italian place. Medium rare steak, a nice bottle of Cabernet, a beautiful woman across the table. The mood was perfect. I was just about to say something romantic to take our relationship to the next level. Then she glanced at her phone. Her expression went from spring sunshine to Arctic winter in 0.5 seconds. That jerk, she muttered under her breath. She looked up at me and forced an apologetic smile. Sorry, it's that Silent Fall again. My heart skipped a beat, but I had to feign concern. What is it? Did he miss his deadline again? Worse than that. She was so angry her chest was heaving. He asked for a day off. He said his cat ran away and he has to go look for it. So he can't post a chapter today. Me? Sorry, I'm the cat, and you're the one I'm running from. Tell me, isn't that the most ridiculous excuse you've ever heard? She asked me. What could I say? I had to betray my own conscience and viciously condemn myself. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Unbelievable. Why didn't he just say he was abducted by aliens? Right. She slammed her hand on the table. That's exactly how I should respond to him. She immediately picked up her phone, ready to unleash holy hell. I practically had a heart attack. No, no, no. I quickly grabbed her hand to stop her. Victoria, calm down. It's not worth getting so angry over a guy like that. Her hand was soft and cool. The moment I touched her, she froze. The atmosphere suddenly became charged, intimate. She quickly pulled her hand back, a faint blush creeping up her cheeks. I just can't stand it. I understand, I said, looking at her with all the sincerity I could muster. From now on, if he makes you angry, just tell me. I'll help you curse him out. She burst out laughing. You? She raised an eyebrow. You're so mild-mannered. Do you even know how to curse? Of course I do, I said righteously. You can't be polite when you're dealing with a scoundrel like that. And so, for the next half an hour, Ethan Vance, right in front of Victoria Blackwood, used every ounce of my vocabulary to verbally annihilate Silent Fall. I said he was pathologically lazy and had the moral character of a slug. I said he had no professional ethics and was betraying his readers' trust. I said he was a disgrace to the entire web fiction community and should have his writing privileges revoked. At first, Victoria would chime in with a few agreements. But after a while, she just rested her chin on her hand, watching me with a warm, amused smile. There was a tenderness in her eyes I couldn't quite decipher. When I finally ran out of insults and took a sip of water, she spoke softly. Ethan, have you ever considered that you seem to hold a very deep grudge against him? My heart lurched. Did I overdo it? Doi. I scratched my head, playing dumb. Maybe it's because I just hate seeing you so upset. That part, at least, was the absolute truth. Victoria's gaze flickered, and she didn't say anything else. For the rest of the meal, neither of us mentioned that jerk's Silent Fall again. The atmosphere was even better than before. On the way back, I dropped her off at her apartment building. Before she got out of the car, she turned to me suddenly. Ethan, thank you. For what? For listening to me vent and for helping me curse him out. She paused, then added, actually, he has a lot of flaws, but he's not completely worthless. At least the characters he writes. They have a lot of heart. I froze, watching her walk into the building, a goofy smile spreading across my face. She was praising me. My good mood, however, didn't last long, because as soon as I looked down at my phone, I saw the final ultimatum from Vicky the Reaper. 4,000 words. Don't test me. I glanced at my writing app. Untitled chapter. My relationship with Victoria, forged in the fires of our mutual hatred for Silent Fall, grew closer every day. We saw each other almost constantly. If I didn't ask her out, she'd ask me. My coworkers started saying I looked flushed and happy, asking if I was in love. I would just smile and say nothing. Of course I was. I was living a double life, dating a goddess by day and dancing on the edge of a knife by night. How could life not be exciting? One day, Victoria invited me to the premiere of a new indie film. She said she'd gotten 2 exclusive tickets. I, of course, happily accepted. When we got to the theater, I realized it was a pretty big event. The crowd was full of industry insiders, directors, screenwriters, critics. As a star editor in the web fiction world, Victoria had connections with a lot of production companies and knew a lot of people. The moment she walked in, she became the center of attention. People constantly came over to greet her, and I became the inconspicuous accessory on her arm. I didn't mind one bit. Just being able to stand by her side and watch her shine was enough for me. But, as always, someone had to come and ruin the moment. Chad Peterson appeared again. He was dressed to the nines today in a designer suit, his hair shellacked into a perfect helmet. Vicky, what a coincidence. You're here too. He sauntered over with 2 glasses of champagne, completely ignoring me. Victoria's brow twitched. Mr. Peterson, she said, her tone polite but distant. Still so formal? Chad offered her a glass. Just call me Chad. Victoria didn't take it. I don't drink. Chad's face fell, but he quickly recovered, turning his attention to me with a provocative glint in his eye. Mister, Vance is here too. What? Are you accompanying Vicky to the movies again? He put a special emphasis on the word accompanying, as if I were her butler. I smiled, calm and collected. Victoria invited me. A simple sentence, but it completely disarmed him. Chad's face twisted. He probably never imagined Victoria would ask me out herself. Oh, is that so? He said, his smile not reaching his eyes. Well, it seems Mr. Vance has a lot of free time on his hands. Not like me, I'm busy day in and day out, meeting with my top authors, discussing plot lines. I barely have a moment to breathe. There he went again, showing off his so-called top authors. I really want to tell him, all of your author subscription numbers combined don't even touch one of my books. You work very hard, Mr. Peterson, I said with a sincere expression. It's tough, but it's worth it, Chad said smugly. My author, Blade Runner, just got his new book option for a film. I'm here today to meet with the director. Blade Runner. I knew him. He got famous by riding the coattails of popular power fantasy trends. If his book was getting a movie deal, it was probably because his publisher paid a fortune to make it happen. Congratulations, then, Victoria said flatly, her voice devoid of any emotion. Chad was clearly not satisfied with that reaction. He wanted envy, jealousy. So, he turned his fire on me. Mr. Vance, you're a copywriter, right? You must know a thing or two about screenwriting. A little, I said modestly. Perfect. Chad snapped his fingers. I'm helping Blade Runner with the script right now, but there's this one scene that just feels off. Why don't you give me your opinion? He was trying to humiliate me in his own area of expertise, to make me, the small-time copywriter, look like a fool in front of a master editor. The guy was a real piece of work. Victoria saw what he was doing and was about to intervene, but I beat her to it, smiling. Sure, I'd love to hear it. Let's see what pathetic trick he had up his sleeve. Chad cleared his throat and began to ramble on about his masterpiece. It was the usual cliché garbage. The protagonist gets overpowered, finds a bunch of lucky treasures, beats the villain, and gets the girl. He talked for a full 10 minutes, spitting as he got excited. A small crowd started to gather around us. When he finished, he looked at me expectantly. So, Mr. Vance? Pretty brilliant, right? I paused for a moment, then asked him a question. Mr. Peterson, why does your protagonist have to defeat the villain? Chad blinked. Why? Because he's the hero, and the villain is the bad guy. And why is the villain the bad guy? I pressed. Because he does bad things. He kills innocent people. He wants to take over the world. Why does he want to take over the world? Chad was stumped. He stammered for a moment, but couldn't come up with a real reason. I smiled. Mr. Peterson, a good story isn't just about power-ups and cool fight scenes. What's more important is character motivation. What is your protagonist's driving logic? Besides, I'm the hero. What is his deeper purpose for going on this journey? And your villain? Why did he become a villain? Does he have a past? Does he have his own struggles, his own philosophy? A flat, one-dimensional character will never resonate with an audience. Your story might be flashy, but at its core, it's empty. With every sentence I spoke, the color drained from Chad's face. Victoria was looking at me with shining eyes. There was admiration, curiosity, and, was that a hint of worship? The people around us were looking at me differently, too. Their expressions had shifted from idle curiosity to surprise and approval. A few seconds later, someone started clapping. Brilliantly put. Sir, which studio are you with? That was an incredible analysis. Yeah, a lot better than some editors who are all talk. That last comment was clearly aimed at Chad. His face was now the color of a rotten tomato. He wanted to argue, but he couldn't say a word because everything I said was logical and irrefutable. This was the kind of story mastery a top-tier author possessed. It was something a second-rate editor like him could never hope to achieve. Victoria stepped forward and smoothly linked her arm with mine. So, Mr. Peterson, she said, do you still think my friend isn't good enough for me? It was a final, devastating blow. Chad's last shred of dignity was torn to pieces. He shot me a hateful look and then fled in shame. A wave of laughter followed him out. I felt the soft pressure of her arm linked with mine, and I felt like I was floating. She was holding my arm. Did this mean she had accepted me? I looked down at her, and she was looking up at me. Our eyes met. Her cheeks were slightly flushed. Her eyes were filled with a hint of shyness, but mostly pride. Ethan, you really impressed me today. How'd I never realize how talented you are? I was beaming inside, but I had to stay humble. It's nothing. I just like to think about these things in my spare time. If that's just you thinking in your spare time, she said, rolling her eyes, then 99% of the authors at my company should just quit. Wait a second. That line sounded familiar. I remembered. Last time, in my books comment section, she had said the exact same thing to a reader who left a long, detailed review. She'd written, if this reader is just thinking in their spare time, then 99% of our authors should just quit. And that reader was me, using my alternate account. I had used my alt account to write a glowing review for myself and had gotten praised by her for it. And now, she was using the same words to praise me in person. As I was lost in thought, she leaned in close to my ear. Her voice was a whisper just for me. Seriously, have you ever thought about writing for Mythic Reads? With your talent and work ethic, I guarantee you could be the next Silent Fall in 3 years. Me? You gotta be kidding me. This was psychological torture. I looked into her sincere, expectant eyes and forced a smile. I'll think about it. I swear, the expression on my face must have been uglier than if I'd been crying. I didn't register a single word of the movie. My mind was just replaying Victoria's words over and over. Become the next Silent Fall. My God, could anything in the world be more bizarre than this? I, the actual Silent Fall, was being encouraged by my own editor to become myself. This was the real-life version of the Spider-Man pointing meme. After the movie, she suggested a walk along the riverfront instead of going straight home. The city lights glittered on the water like a river of stars. We walked side by side on the path, neither of us speaking. The atmosphere was delicate. She was the first to speak. Ethan, thank you for today. There you go with the thank yous again, I laughed. We don't have to be so formal. This is different. She stopped and turned to face me, her expression serious. The river breeze blew her long hair across my face, carrying a faint, sweet scent. Today, you stood up for me. Her eyes were brighter than the stars in the night sky. And I'm really happy. My heart skipped a beat. I was about to say something, but she suddenly stood on her tiptoes and gently kissed my cheek. It was as light as a dragonfly landing on water, over in an instant. But I was completely frozen. My mind went blank. All I could feel was the warm, soft touch on my cheek. She kissed me? I stammered, at a total loss for words. She looked at my dumbstruck face and giggled. What's wrong with you? A big tough guy gets one little kiss, and he turns to stone. Her smile, under the city lights, was intoxicating. I took a deep breath, summoned all the courage I had, and grabbed her hand. Victoria Blackwood. It was the first time I had said her full name. Her body tensed for a second, but she didn't pull away. I like you, I said, looking her straight in the eye. I want to be your boyfriend. Can I? After I said it, I felt like all the strength had been drained from my body. My palms were sweating. Time seemed to stand still. The only thing I could hear was the frantic drumming of my own heart. After what felt like an eternity, she let out a soft "Ahm." What was that? I didn't quite hear you, I teased. Victoria's face turned beet red. She glared at me and squeezed my hand. I said yes. I couldn't help it. I pulled her into a hug. Tightly, so tightly. Her body was soft, fitting perfectly in my arms. I finally got you, I murmured in her ear. She laughed softly in my embrace. I'm pretty sure I kissed you first. That's only because my personality is so charming. You wish. We stood there on the riverbank, holding each other for a long, long time, until my phone rang. I pulled it out. It was my mom. I answered. Hey, Mom. So, how'd it go? How far have you gotten with Victoria? I looked at Victoria, who was watching me curiously. I cleared my throat and announced loudly into the phone, Mom, you're going to have a daughter-in-law very soon. My mom's deafening laughter erupted from the other end of the line. Victoria, still in my arms, turned red all the way to her ears. She playfully punched my chest. What are you talking about? I hung up and looked down at her. I'm not talking nonsense. I want to shout it from the rooftops. You, Victoria Blackwood, are my girl now. Her expression instantly softened into one of incredible tenderness. Our relationship was official. The days that followed were so sweet, I felt like I was living in a candy store. We were like any other couple in love. We ate together, saw movies together, went shopping together. I would wait for her outside her office when she got off work. She would come over to my place and make her famous lasagna. My girlfriend was the editor I feared most, and I was the author who gave her the biggest headaches. I was living a spy movie every single day. During the day, I was Ethan, the gentle, considerate boyfriend, listening to her complain about how that jerk's Silent Fall missed his deadline again. At night, I transformed back into the infuriating Silent Fall, racking my brain for new excuses to fend off Vicky the Reaper's demands for a new chapter. I have writer's block. My laptop broke. My neighbor's dog is depressed, and I had to go talk to it. One time, Victoria got so mad, she sent me a 60-second voice message on Discord. There wasn't a single curse word in it, but I didn't dare listen to it. I was afraid if I did, I wouldn't have the courage to face her the next day. I quietly used the speech-to-text function and stared in terror at the screen full of passive-aggressive ha-ha-has. Meanwhile, on my phone, Victoria, "Hey babe, what are you up to?" Victoria, "That Silent Fall gave me a migraine again today. Can you make me feel better?" Wiping the cold sweat from my brow, I would type back, "Ethan, there, don't be mad. He's not worth it. Ethan, while he's torturing you, he's definitely torturing himself too." That part was actually true. I felt like I was developing a split personality. What was even scarier was that Victoria started to have high hopes for me. Ethan, the undiscovered literary genius. "Ethan, your writing is really good," she'd say, her eyes shining as she read a cheesy poem I wrote for her. "Why don't you try publishing on Mythic Reads? I can be your editor." I was so scared I nearly dropped my glass. No, I'm not good enough," I said, waving my hands frantically. "I'm just messing around. I'm nothing compared to the big shots you manage. Especially that. Silent Fall. I couldn't even hold a candle to him." I said it without blinking. My ability to lie with a straight face had reached a whole new level. "Don't mention him." Victoria's face clouded over. "If you had half his talent combined with half your work ethic, you'd be a legend by now." All I could do was laugh nervously. "Honey, I am him. I have 100% of his talent and 0% of his work ethic. I lived like this for 3 months. Every single day was like walking a tightrope. I even started having nightmares. I dreamed that Victoria and I were on a date, and suddenly my head would turn into a giant Discord icon with the name Silent Fall written on it. Then Victoria would pull a 40-meter sword out her purse. I always woke up in a cold sweat. I knew my cover would be blown eventually. I just didn't expect it to happen so soon, or so catastrophically. One day, Victoria excitedly told me that the Mythic Reads annual awards gala was coming up. "We had a bunch of blockbuster hits this year, so the company did really well," she said, her eyes sparkling. "All the top authors are going to be there." My stomach plummeted. "All of them?" "Yep," she nodded. "Including that Silent Fall. He's the author of the year again, so he has to be there to accept his award. I finally get to see what the jerk who only exists on the other side of a screen actually looks like." She cracked her knuckles as she spoke, a dangerous light in her eyes. I felt sweat begin to trickle down my back. "But what if he doesn't show up?" I asked, clinging to my last sliver of hope. "Aren't top authors usually really mysterious?" "He wouldn't dare," Victoria scoffed. "If he doesn't show, you and I will crawl through the internet together and mail him a box of spiders." "Me? So ruthless. That's my Vicky the Reaper." "Honey, will you come to the gala with me?" she asked suddenly. "Me?" I pointed at myself. "Yes, you. It'll be a chance for you to see your girlfriend in her natural habitat, kicking ass and taking names." She smiled sweetly. "And you can help me entertain Silent Fall." She put a heavy emphasis on the word entertain. I could already picture it. I'd be standing next to Victoria, watching Silent Fall walk up on stage to get his award. Victoria would point at him and say to me, "Honey, look, that's the jerk." It was over. Game over. This time it was really, truly over. On the night of the awards gala, I was dressed to kill. I wore a sharp, black tailored suit that Victoria had picked out for me. My hair was perfectly styled, my forehead clear. I swapped my gold-rimmed glasses for silver ones, which made me look more mature and composed. I stood in front of the mirror, practicing various expressions: shocked, guilty, pitiful, and, of course, resigned to my fate. When Victoria came to pick me up, she just stared. "Honey, you look so handsome tonight." She was breathtakingly beautiful herself. She wore a stunning starlight blue evening gown that perfectly accentuated her figure. Her long hair was swept up, revealing her elegant, swan-like neck. Her usual icy demeanor had transformed into a noble, cool grace, like the moon on a clear night. Standing together, we looked like a perfect couple. If I could just ignore the fact that my cover was about to be spectacularly blown, it would have been a perfect night. "You look beautiful, too," I said sincerely. She smiled and took my arm. "Let's go, my knight." The event was held in the most luxurious hotel ballroom in River City. It was dazzling, filled with the who's who of the web fiction world. The moment Victoria arrived, she captured everyone's attention. She was, without a doubt, the queen of the evening, and I, as her date, was the target of countless curious, envious, and jealous stares. The most venomous glare came from Chad Peterson, who was sulking in a corner. He looked haggard. His flashy shirt was gone, replaced by a wrinkled suit. He looked like a failed salesman. When he saw me and Victoria together, his face turned green. He started to walk over, but one cold look from Victoria sent him scurrying back. He stood there, trying to kill me with his eyes. I raised my glass to him with a little smirk. "Game over, little buddy." His face turned an even darker shade of green. Victoria introduced me to her colleagues and some of her business partners. "This is my boyfriend, Ethan," she would say, her face beaming with pride. And every time they would shake my hand and say something like, "Mr. Vance, you're a handsome man. You and Victoria make a perfect couple." Or, "Wow, to win over our untouchable ice queen, you must be quite the man." I could only smile modestly. The ceremony began. The host was charming. The awards were handed out one by one. Best newcomer, most innovative, most popular. As a star editor, Victoria went on stage several times to present awards. Each time, she stood in the spotlight, radiating confidence and charisma. I sat in the audience, watching her like a lovesick fool, my heart half full of sweetness, half full of terror. Finally, it was time for the last and most important award. Author of the Year. The host's voice boomed with excitement as he began to list the author's accomplishments. He is a legend in the world of web fiction, a master from the moment he began. Every one of his works has broken the site's subscription records. His stories are filled with epic fantasy, sweeping historical sagas, and heart-wrenching romance. He is the cornerstone of our platform, a god in the hearts of countless readers. I heard people whispering around me. "It has to be Silent Fall. Obviously, who else could it be? I wonder if he'll actually show up tonight." I heard he's super reclusive, never goes to any events. He has to show up for Victoria, right? She's the one who discovered him. I could feel my palms starting to sweat again. Victoria, sitting next to me, was also getting excited. She leaned in and whispered in my ear, "We're about to meet the jerk. Are you excited?" "Me? Excited. So excited I could just about pee my pants. If he dares to act all high and mighty, you just watch how I'll deal with him," she said, cracking her knuckles again. I swallowed hard. On stage, the host was ready to reveal the winner. And the Author of the Year award goes to, he dragged out the name, building the suspense. Everyone's eyes were glued to the giant screen. I nervously looked up as well. A slickly produced video began to play, featuring classic quotes from my books set to an epic soundtrack and stunning CGI. Finally, the video ended, and a stylized username appeared in the center of the screen. Silent Fall. The ballroom erupted in thunderous applause. And now, let's give a warm welcome to our award presenter, star editor Ms. Victoria Blackwood, and our Author of the Year, Mr. Silent Fall, on stage. Victoria took a deep breath and stood up. She smoothed down her dress, a perfect, professional smile on her face. She looked back at me. "Honey, wait for me here. I'll be right back." I watched her walk towards the stage, and I thought to myself, "No, baby, I can't wait for you. Because I have to go up there too." Under the stunned gaze of the entire ballroom, under Victoria's confused stare, I, Ethan Vance, slowly stood up, and step by step, I walked towards a stage that belonged to Silent Fall. The world seemed to go silent. The only thing I could hear was my own heart pounding. I saw Chad Peterson in the audience, his mouth hanging open wide enough to fit an egg. I saw Victoria's colleagues, their faces a mask of pure shock. I saw the other authors, all looking completely bewildered. But I didn't stop. I walked onto the stage, took the trophy from a frozen Victoria, and turned to face the screen. The camera zoomed in, capturing my face and the name Silent Fall in the same frame. The entire ballroom was dead silent. Everyone was stunned. Ethan Vance, Silent Fall. They were the same person? And Victoria, standing just inches away from me, had an expression on her face that was a masterpiece of conflicting emotions. First, confusion, then bewilderment, then shock, and finally, utter disbelief. Her pupils dilated. She looked from me to the name on the screen, back and forth, as if she couldn't trust her own eyes. The colors slowly drained from her beautiful face. Looking at her, only 4 words came to my mind. I'm so dead. The host's voice boomed. And now, let's hear a few words from Mr. Vance. I took the microphone, faced the audience, and faced the petrified Victoria in front of me, and smiled. Hello, everyone. I am Silent Fall. Boom. The audience exploded. What the hell? Is this for real? He's Silent Fall? He's so young. And handsome. Oh my god, I always pictured some neckbeard in a basement. This is insane. Wait, isn't he Victoria's boyfriend? All eyes were on me and Victoria. I could feel her body trembling slightly. I could even hear the faint sound of her teeth grinding. But I had to finish my speech. I cleared my throat. First, I want to thank Mythic Reads for giving me this opportunity. Next, I want to thank my readers. Your support is what got me here today. And finally, my gaze fell on Victoria's face. The person I want to thank the most is my girlfriend and my editor, Ms. Victoria Blackwood. I turned to her and gave a deep bow. Without you, there would be no Silent Fall. Thank you, my love. I saw her tremble again. The audience burst into another round of applause. They were all moved by my heartfelt confession. They thought it was a beautiful story of an author and an editor supporting each other. Only I knew that this was my desperate, last-ditch effort to save my own life. The awards ceremony ended. I stood on the stage, holding the trophy, completely at a loss. I didn't dare go down. I was afraid the moment I stepped off the stage, Victoria would assassinate me on the spot. Just then, Victoria moved. The ice on her face instantly melted, replaced by a smile so gentle. It was terrifying. She walked gracefully to my side and, in front of everyone, linked her arm with mine, just as she had when we first arrived. Congratulations, Mr. Fall, she purred, her voice sickly sweet. The way she said Mr. Fall was drawn out, full of hidden meaning. I felt my scalp tingle. Thank you. It's all. Thanks to your guidance, I stammered. Is that so? Her smile grew wider. Why don't we go backstage for a private chat? I have so many questions I'd like to ask the famous Mr. Fall. The way she said ask sounded more like interrogate. What could I say? I could only nod. Oh, okay. And so, under the watchful eyes of everyone, I, the author of the year, Silent Fall, was smilingly escorted backstage by my editor and girlfriend, Victoria Blackwood. To everyone else, it looked like a perfectly harmonious, beautiful scene. But I, knowing the truth, just wanted to fall to my knees and beg for mercy. The backstage lounge was empty. BM. The door slammed shut behind me. Victoria let go of my arm. I nervously took a step back. She slowly turned around and advanced on me, one step at a time. I retreated, step by step, until my back hit the cold wall. There was nowhere left to run. She stopped in front of me and raised her hand. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the slap. It never came. Instead, she gently caressed my hot cheek. I opened my eyes and met a pair of beautiful, dangerous ones. She smiled. A wicked, predatory smile. Mr. Fall, she whispered, her voice soft and silky, sending a shiver down my spine. Playing with my feelings online and dodging your deadlines offline. Did you have fun? I shook my head frantically. I didn't mean to. Oh, she raised an eyebrow. So you did it on purpose? No. I was babbling. My brain had completely shut down. You what? She reached out her other hand, her fingertips lightly tracing my Adam's apple. I felt a jolt of electricity, a tingling sensation that spread through my entire body. Ethan, she said, suddenly using my real name. Or should I call you? Silent Fall. Vicky, let me explain. Explain? She chuckled softly. Okay, I am listening. You have all night to explain. She leaned in close, her warm breath tickling my ear. Tonight, you're writing 5,000 words. And if you don't, try me. That night was both the most glorious and the darkest of my life. Victoria escorted me home, and the moment we were inside, she shoved me into the chair in my office. Right, she commanded. I looked at her, standing there with her arms crossed, staring at me. The gentle, caring woman was gone, replaced by a drill sergeant. Honey, I tried one last time. Can we maybe talk about our feelings first? Sure, she nodded. She walked behind me, placed her hands on my shoulders, and began to knead them gently. We can talk while you write. Her voice was as soft as water, but I felt a chill on the back of my neck. Mr. Fall, your acceptance speech was very moving. Without me, there would be no Silent Fall. I was so touched I almost cried. Me? You don't have to rub it in. So, to repay me, your muse, she continued, shouldn't you be a little more sincere? The pressure on my shoulders increased. I thought my vertebrae were going to crack. 5,000 words, not one word less. If you don't finish, you'll face the consequences. With that, she sat down on the armchair opposite me, crossed her legs, and watched. Her long, slender legs were barely concealed by her evening gown. I sat there, looking at her, then at my computer. I didn't feel like I was here to write. What are you looking at? She said coldly. Is there something on my face? And no. I quickly turned back to the computer, opened a new document. The cursor blinked on the blank page, a lonely beacon in a sea of white. My mind was just as blank. I couldn't write a single word. The minutes ticked by. The air in the room grew thick. Can't write? Her voice cut through the silence. I have writer's block, I mumbled. It was my go-to excuse. But tonight it wasn't working. Writer's block, she scoffed. The great Silent Fall has writer's block. Aren't you the one whose inspiration flows like a river? The one whose words come as easily as breathing? Aren't you the master of excuses, the king of playing dead? What's wrong? Now that you've met me in person, have you run out of things to say? With every word, my head sank lower until I wished I could just disappear into the couch cushions. Vicky, I'm sorry, I said, finally surrendering. Sorry for what? For hiding this from you. And for missing my deadlines. And I'm sorry for being so handsome and talented that you can't help but love me and hate me at the same time. I said, looking up with a desperate, shameless grin. Victoria stared at me for a second, then burst out laughing. Ethan, I never realized you were so thick-skinned, she said, shaking her head, half amused, half exasperated. Well, desperate times call for desperate measures, I mumbled pitifully. She sighed, stood up, and came to sit next to me on the couch. Look at me, she commanded. I obeyed. She reached out and squeezed my shoulder. Does it hurt? No. Then I should have squeezed harder. She did. Ow, ow, ow. I yelped. She finally let go. Good. As long as you can feel pain, she huffed. All right, tell me. How long have you known? Since the first blind date. I recognized you right away. I confessed. So you've been laughing at me this whole time? Her eyes narrowed dangerously. No. I quickly explained. I wanted to run, but you were too beautiful, and I couldn't. Then, watching you get angry about Silent Fall every day, I was too scared to tell you. I was afraid if I told you, you wouldn't even want to be friends with me anymore. The more I talked, the more pathetic I sounded. Victoria looked at me, and her gaze slowly softened. You idiot, she said, stroking my hair. I was angry at the irresponsible, evasive Silent Fall. Not the Ethan who buys me breakfast, listens to concerts with me, and patiently hears me complain. But they're the same person. No, they're not. She shook her head. Before, I only knew him. Now I know the whole you. Talented, but also a procrastinator. Infuriating, but also adorable. As she spoke, a faint blush appeared on her cheeks. I stared at her, my heart skipping a beat. So, you're not mad at me anymore? I asked tentatively. I am, she glared. Of course I am. You lied to me for so long. We'll be settling that score for a long, long time. So, the 5,000 words. Not one word less, she said firmly. My face fell. However, she leaned in close to my ear and whispered, I can give you a little reward. What kind of reward? My eyes lit up. She didn't answer. Instead, she gently pressed her lips against mine. Warm, soft. Instantly, my energy bar was fully restored. My inspiration is overflowing. I pulled my laptop onto my lap, my fingers flying across the keyboard. Forget 5,000 words. I could do 20,000. Victoria watched me, a wide, beautiful smile spreading across her face. She didn't go back to her chair. She just leaned against my shoulder, quietly watching me write. Her breath, her warmth, the scent of her hair surrounded me. That night, I really did write 20,000 words. The words flowed out of me like a tidal wave. When I finally finished, the sun was rising. I put down the laptop and turned my head. Victoria had fallen asleep on my shoulder. She looked so peaceful. Gone was Vicky the Reaper. Gone was the Ice Queen. She was just a woman, exhausted from work, softened by love. I gently kissed her on the forehead. Good morning, my dear editor. From then on, Victoria became my personal deadline enforcer. She moved in with me, and my office became our sweet, highly efficient battlefield. Whenever I had writer's block, she would sit on my lap, editing my manuscript and pointing out my mistakes. With her in my arms, my inspiration was a constant, unstoppable torrent. My update schedule became unbelievably consistent. My readers in the comment section were going crazy. Holy crap, did Silent Fall have a personality transplant? He's updating with 10K words a day. This is impossible. Did he get possessed? I think he's been kidnapped. Silent Fall, if you're being held hostage, kill off a minor character in the next chapter as a sign. I laughed as I read the comments, then glanced at Victoria, who was sitting on my lap, seriously reading my draft. She was wearing a soft white sweater today, her hair cascading over her shoulders. She was completely absorbed, her brow slightly furrowed. Here, she said, pointing at the screen. This metaphor isn't great. It's a bit cliché. Change it. I leaned down and kissed her furrowed brow. Yes, ma'am. Whatever you say, my dear editor. She blinked. Then a blush crept up her cheeks as she rolled her eyes. I'm working. Be serious. Work isn't as important as you. I tossed the laptop aside and wrapped my arms around her, burying my face in the crook of her fragrant neck. Vicky. I love you. I know. So, the manuscript. It's not important right now. She cupped my face in her hands and initiated a kiss. I love you too.